Welcome to another story time with the Walrus. Pull up a chair, grab yourself a nice drink, and let's get into it. Now, this story is one I wanted to see how long I could push a basic idea, but to tell you the idea would be to destroy the story. See if you can guess what is going on. I'd be interested to see who can work out what my prompt was for this weird story. This tale is simply titled The Journey. So sit back, relax, and let's get started.
Once upon a time in a land far, far away. From you. From me, it's not far at all. I guess that would be due to space-time locations, but really, what is time and what is space? Is it all a human construct? Could we not just be close to each other if we just believed we are? Anyway, as I was saying, there once lived a warrior who had been confined to the prison of his room for actions unbefitting the hero he was destined to be. No one can be sure why destiny chose him for this role. Of course, no one can be sure destiny exists at all, or if by believing in it we create it. Why, a great philosopher once said, destiny can only exist so long as people believe it so. But this hero would have a great destiny, and today it would reveal itself. Trapped and driven mad by the mundane quality of his imprisonment, our hero waited for the warden of the tower to do her hourly checkup of her prisoner. She was a sweet, kind woman on the surface, but once mad, her true form would release. It was too strong for a hero of this person's level to handle, a demon incarnate that destroyed the soul of a person and wanted nothing more than to crush the will and ambition of any who would cross her doctrine. It had been 2 weeks since the hero's incarceration had begun. He thought his punishment did not fit the crime. To say no to the beast was to jump into the jaws of the lion. She had not taken kindly, and the battle had begun. The hero thought he had landed good strikes on the creature, but the demon was completely unfazed. She could only hold the hero for a limited time, as per the rules of her contract. But in that time, she had forced the legendary warrior to partake in cruel and demeaning tasks, unbefitting a warrior of his stature. The hour struck, the door swung open, and the demonic entity overshadowing the kind woman entered the room. "It is time, for I cannot hold you longer," she said. "But to truly earn your freedom, you must partake in a quest so grand that the gods themselves shudder at the prospect. You must travel to the end of this plane of reality, find the artifacts that I have written on this parchment, battle the evil that plagues the edge, and return the objects of power that will allow my host to return to her mortal coil." The parchment had but 3 items on it: the green iceberg, the liquid containing 1,000 suns, and the meat of a black and white dragon. He couldn't fathom what this being would want with such exotic items, but the thought of freedom would sway his decision making. If he refused the demon again, who knew how long his incarceration would last? "Finally," the demon said, "take this talisman. There is an impassable ogre that will stop you once you acquire the artifacts. The talisman is the only thing that can defeat it. Do not try and fight the ogre. Not only will you be defeated, but I will have to find a new punishment to fit the crime." The hero shuddered at the thought. He grabbed what belongings he could and made his way to the bottom of the tower. As the boy descended the stairs, he could taste the fresh air of freedom. The light erupting from the door was blinding. His quest had begun. For all the warnings the demon had given him, the trials he faced along the way would be a challenge to any mortal man. The quest had seemed light at first. Over the hills and across the lands he went. The sights were familiar to a seasoned traveller such as himself. He even said hello to the residents of the kingdom, who were surprised to see him without his usual party of heroes. The mage and the healer were unaware of his sudden freedom from his imprisonment. The travel soon turned to peril as the sky darkened. The world turned on our fair adventurer as the gods themselves showed their sudden displeasure of the destined child's early freedom. They sent bullets of water to stop the hero in his tracks. Thankfully, he had brought a magic-resistant shield with him that defeated any water magic that would befall him. As he pulled out the shield, he realised in horror that it was not his. Whereas it would defend him from the magic just as well, it came with a horrible curse. The curse of poor sight to others. He would be looked at with looks of confusion and ridicule so long as he wielded the now bright pink shield. He yet again cursed the demon for the trick she had played on him. Once he entered the land at the edge of reality, the gods were the last of his issues. This land was filled with creatures and monsters in numbers few would dare to fight. But our hero would not be deterred. As the monster stampede began, he used the techniques his rogue brother had taught him. He ducked and weaved through the beings, trying to find an opening and escape. He couldn't fight the animals. Attack one and all will turn on you. A gentle rearrangement of position was one thing, but the moment he drew his weapon, he would be as good as dead. He saw it in but a flash and a sound of shifting walls, almost rolling to the minor freedom the cave allowed for. It was like entering a different world. The walls were filled with minor treasures, small items that would attract any would-be adventurer, those without a quest. The true treasures were further within. There were trials to get the artifacts he needed for his quest. Finding the iceberg that was truly green was a challenge. Which one was the treasure and which would lead to further incarceration? It became a battle of the mind that would destroy a lesser man. The treasure was hidden in the deepest corner of green. He noticed a faint glow of perfect green and lunged for it, lest it escape once more. Grabbing his treasure, he left the area, hoping no monster would impede him and try to steal the green iceberg. The liquid of 1,000 suns had its own quest. It was placed at an almost insurmountable height. It would take strength, dexterity, and a lot of luck to reach it and return to the ground safely. The climb up the sheer-face wall was almost too much for the hero, as he failed to get a grip and almost fell to his doom. Recovering, he began his ascent again. He heard the siren calls of the monsters below, offering him assistance in his quest. He was told not to trust the words of others, or be seduced into temptation by them. These creatures could likely get the artifact for him, but at what cost? And would it be the correct one? He ignored their cries. Finally, reaching the top of the cliff, he saw it. The perfect vessel for the liquid. Clenching the bottle, he found himself lifted from the wall by the hands of a giant. He shifted and turned, but the grip was too strong. The giant had stern words for the hero as he returned the warrior to the ground. "Do not climb the cliffs again, or next time we will unleash the creature of nightmares on you," it said, walking away. He was safe, but his enemies now stalked his every step. He needed to get the last artifact quickly before the forces of evil took action. He found his way to the very back of the cave, and there stood his final challenge, the black and white dragon. One could not kill a dragon. To fight it was to commit suicide. But if you could appease the gatekeeper, you could receive a cut of the dragon's flesh. "Sir, I am on a quest to obtain my freedom. May you bestow upon me the meat of the beast most dangerous?" He knew the riddle was to come, an answer to a question only few knew. "What part of the dragon is most important?" the gatekeeper inquired, obtaining his sword as though he already knew the hero would answer correctly. He remembered the words of his ancestors. "All the dragon is important, but the ribs hold the heart." The gatekeeper nodded and charged the dragon. The battle was long and fierce, a sight that would go down in legend for the hero. He could only hope to be half the adventurer the gatekeeper was one day. He would train and perfect his craft, and one day, the hero hoped he could face the dragon himself. Battered and bruised, the gatekeeper returned with the meat of the dragon. The boy accepted the package most precious and bid the gatekeeper good day. The final part of the quest, the one the demon warned of, was drawing close. Entering the final chamber, he found the immovable ogre blocking his passage. It was a mountain unto itself. It was clear that no human could easily escape its clutches. "You must pay the toll to gain the freedom you seek," it said. Sounded like it said these words hundreds of times before. He pulled the talismans from his trousers and enacted the spell. The ogre took them from him and returned small round discs, which the hero could only assume was to allow safe passage. His return journey was met with a similar fate to the way to the edge of the world. When he reached the tower, he could already feel the shackles weakening. He was almost free. The demon kept her promise, freeing its grasp from the woman and doing the imprisonment of the hero. The woman, eternally grateful, bestowed upon the hero a meal so fine, it was worth the quest in itself. The end. Right. When I asked you what you did over the weekend, I did not expect that story. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but did you just tell me that you went to the shops for your mum? I mean, if you want to be boring about it, sure. Did you do anything else? The boy's friend asked. Well, the boy smiled. Once upon a time.
So, did you guess the twist right? This was a story that came up after I heard the phrase, to cut a long story short. My brain said, how long can you make a quick story? Imagine my surprise when it hit 1800 words. I love this story, just for what it shows I can do if I put my mind to it.
This week has been slower. Let's not beat around the bush. When I last updated you, I told you I needed to take that day off. That was the right choice, but it also highlighted how close to burnout I had come. But getting back into the swing of things had some issues. Let's talk about something problematic in writing. Trying to recreate your own work. because that's where I suffered this week. First, before anything, the current count is on the screen now. Gaze in its magnificence. For 2 weeks of work I am proud, also a little worried. I was at week 2's goal at the end of week 1 and week 3's goal at the end of week 2. Now I know what you were thinking. Great, you're nearly done. Alas, it isn't going to be that simple. See, week 1 my creativity was at its highest. I had so many story beats to work off, the ideas flowed, and by the end of it I wrote my greatest piece. Week 2 I still had story beats, and one idea I was convinced could beat the tale of the dancer. I was so very wrong. Now, that is not to say it was a bad story. It just suffers from me trying to one-up a tale from a different subgenre. One ended up being a romance, while the new story I knew was going to be a tragedy from the moment I started. Hydrangea's Tale is the best work I have ever written, hands down, no lies. But when I started writing this new tale, I wanted to write something to challenge it. I was competing with myself. As a person with crippling self-doubt at times, that is a recipe for disaster. Recreating the magic of one story is impossible. That story is a self-contained thing. The characters, the beats, the wonder it instilled upon you. Nothing is going to recreate that. Sure, things can be written in a similar style, but every story has a different feeling. Last week I told you I wrote Banana Kaiju and Hydrangea's Story. Both were my magnum opus upon writing. I well and truly believed that I would never write better than Banana Kaiju when I finished it, so I didn't try. That was why the second story beat it. It wasn't competing, it was just enjoying itself. But because I one-upped myself, I thought I would do it again. So I tried to channel the same energy into the new story. It was only when I let go of this concept did the story's flow begin to improve. Upon second draft, that work will probably need some heavy editing. And there will be a second draft. I was talking to a friend recently and I admitted that this world is the world I want to publish. To show to everyone as this is who I am as a writer, as a walrus. Going forward, I'm going to get the story there, and I think post NaNoWriMo, that is what this section of Storytime with the Walrus will become. For what is a personal story without personality? We wrote 1.5 stories last week, an aggravating number to me. For the longest time, I have set myself to write a story in a day. These stories from this month are a version of that. But training my mind to think that has caused me to get annoyed when a story is half finished. If I was writing a long story, I'd be constantly angry at myself right now. I do need to spend some time organising my work. Using 2 computers left the story broken in various places. I am 87% sure I am missing one right now. Somewhere in the void of the PC madness. But story-wise for week 3, for saying I had 10 tales at the start, we have drafted 8, wrote 6, and some of the story beats have accidentally fused into other stories. I imagine this is going to be a slow week, but I have the second half of the story to write, and another that came from the Banana Kaiju story. Honestly, I need to get some tales between the first monster and dancer. Therein lies a very important thing I need the audience to note, but I also need to write it so it is obvious, as the narrator would want. Also, I need to write in my god of lust, for she exists, but I have not got a story for her yet. Lastly, should time permit this week, I have my most challenging piece to write, a conversation between the 7 gods. I have a plan for this, and I know which 2 gods will take centre stage, but I am bad at dialogue. This will probably be the entirety of week 4, just to get the feeling right. It is a very important chapter after all.
I think that'll do for today, and as always, don't forget to do that like, comment and subscribe, lest I come and begin an endless tale outside your house. Next week is the final story, and to be honest, it is one of my favourites to date. Hope you're looking forward to it. Catch you next time and wish me luck.